So we're very excited today to have Shani Mahiri King, who is the author of Have I Ever Told You Black Lives Matter, coming from Tilbury House. So Shani, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here and happy to talk about the book.
Well, we are especially thrilled, and I want you to tell us a little bit about how you came to write this book. This is your second book for kids, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So my books, Ellen, always begin from the same place, and they begin from conversations that I either have with my kids or conversations that I want to have with them. And so my first book began exactly that way. Have I Ever Told You began as conversations that I was actually having with my kids during a time in which I thought it was important that they be reminded that they are no less important than anyone else. And it was a time of political polarization during which the political discourse that they invariably are exposed to, even though they're young, seemed to be about exclusion rather than inclusion. And so I was having these conversations with my kids, and a few people mentioned that these conversations were conversations that had universal appeal and that they thought other kids could benefit from, and Have I Ever Told You was born. So this book that we're talking about now, Have I Ever Told You Black Lives Matter, has a similar origin story. I've always, of course, as any parent does, felt that it was important that my kids know that they're special, that they should be proud of who they are. I've always wanted my kids to understand their history, which is in part Black history, but also that is, of course, American history. And it's really hard, from my perspective, to teach history to kids in a way that they're open to listening to and in a way that they can absorb. And I'm speaking both with respect to parents trying to do it, but also teachers and educators trying to do that. I mean, who has time these days, right, to spend a lot of time on any one thing? So enter the Black Lives Matter movement. And this was a reminder, not only that Black history is American history, but that many kids, including my own, don't know enough about their own history. And so thinking about my kids being proud of who they are, and thinking about all kids being proud of who they are led me to write this book. And so fundamentally, Ellen, it's about empowering all kids with their own history.
Wonderful. So you did a lot of research to put this book together. As you were doing your research, how did you make decisions about who to include, who not to include? Did you encounter anything that really surprised you or even haunted you as you were going through and creating this wonderful book?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, so all of these stories, I mean, it's impossible to include everyone. And so, what I tried to do is I tried to include a representative sample of some of the African-American historical figures and current, I guess, figures that are important, I think, to sort of the entire breadth of accomplishment and achievement when you think about African-American history. And all of the stories inspired me, Ellen. I mean, there are stories of Black excellence from just about every field and endeavor, but it's not only about where these people ended up. It's the sheer diversity of the stories, I think, provides the opportunity for every child from every circumstance to see someone in this book so that they can be surprised and inspired. So as I was saying, it's not only about where they end up, it's also about where they began. And so one way that I think about this book, Ellen, is that it provides a hook for every child to learn their own history in a way that connects to who they are, which, as any educator knows, right, is the key. How can you connect what I'm teaching these kids to who they are? And it's everyone from, there are so many people, everyone from Arthur Ashe, who learned tennis on the playground in which his father was a caretaker, to Charles Hamilton Houston, who was a grandson of a former slave and who led the legal fight against segregation, to Maya Angelou, a single mother who grew up in the Jim Crow South and became one of our most renowned authors, right? This book, I think, provides someone for everyone to be inspired by. And one important feature of this book is not only does the back of the book, Ellen, contain over 100 biographies of some of the African American pioneers who are discussed throughout the text, but it also includes carefully curated quotations from each of these folks that provide children the opportunity to be inspired by these amazing pioneers in their own words. And, I mean, I think of one quote, for example, James Baldwin, who said, you think your pain and heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read. Who knows who that would inspire, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. And that actually makes me think of a great way that teachers can use this book is as a writing prompt, because let the kids pick one and then just run with it. So are there any other ideas you may have for teachers who want to use this book with kids in the classroom?
Well, Ellen, I love the idea as a writing prompt. I mean, I think I think one sort of way that it could be used is just in that way, right? As a resource for students who want to do presentations, who want to do papers, who want to do projects on historical topics, but don't know where to start, right? There are so many different places to start in this book.
Living History Museum, yeah.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I think so. I think there's there's enough information in this book that it could be used as even a text in African American history. I think it could also be used as a blueprint or a roadmap from which teachers can plan their own African American history segments and expand on any number of topics that are discussed in the book. I really see it as a unique resource that is both information rich and broad and diverse, yet flexible and versatile. And I think importantly, it's both historical and contemporary. So which is, you're talking about, trying to connect with these kids, and you start talking about topics that they think, only appear in dusty history books that no longer exist, right? Some kids will connect with those figures and some kids won't, but showing the entire trajectory of African American history, including contemporary figures. So you have anyone from, let's say, Fannie Lou Hamer to Jay-Z, right? I mean, that can perk students' ears up and get them to pay attention. So I think there are any number of ways that this book could be used in a classroom, and I don't remember seeing a resource exactly like this before.
Yeah, and I think one of the other ways, one of the things that really can draw the kids in is the way it's illustrated. What was your reaction when you first saw the book and the approach that Bobby C. Martin, the illustrator, took with it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, Ellen, so I was familiar with Bobby's work, given some of the amazing work that he had done. He had done a really amazing spread on Martin Luther King for the Atlantic magazine. He had done some really cool work for NYU's social entrepreneurship program. He had done the cover for a issue on reparations in the New York Times Magazine. So I was excited when he decided to sign up and do it. And so when I saw it, I thought, wow, this is very powerful. I thought, but it's also fun, right? I mean, it's sort of reminiscent of cut paper, right? Something that kids may use in an art class. So it's powerful, fun, and unique and striking. And so I was really excited when I saw it. And I'm excited and hopeful that both teachers and students will see what I saw.
Well, thank you so much for writing this book. It has been such a pleasure to talk with you about Have I Ever Told You Black Lives Matter? And our guest today has been Shani Mahiri King and Tilbury House for making this possible. And congratulations on the book. It's just an amazing book, and I can't wait to get it out there to people.
Thank you very much, Ellen.